Hi, folks. You're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this radio, audio, no pictures. Listen to this while you're driving along in your car live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the astonishing number of black on black violence, or the astonishing amount of black on black violence, shootings, stabbings in the United States. Now, you could pretty much go to any majority black country and find the same thing, whether it's Jamaica or it doesn't matter. But just focusing on the US for the moment. Now, I was trawling through some, channel surfing a bit on some of the smaller regional social media channels and outlets in the US, and came across one that cited a local Chicago suburban, like a small suburban newspaper that said that, or media outlet that said that 45 black people had been shot. It's just black people shooting each other, had been shot over the weekend in this particular weekend in Chicago. And only 45 people getting shot. I mean, wow, isn't that an international headline? I mean, fuck, 45 people. Now, of this, I think 4 or 5 had died. And there were several others that were in a critical condition and were sort of hanging by a thread. So we've got to assume that there'll be more deaths. So, say 45 people getting shot, some of them minor injuries, but somewhere between, say, 5 and 8 are going to die either on the spot or subsequently as a result of gunshot wounds sustained. Now, that's a lot of shoot. Some of these people, by the way, they while they were trying to shoot each other, they got hit an innocent bystander. A couple of the people that were killed were children who just happened to get hit by a stray bullet, and so on. But anyway, no matter how you dress this up, I mean, this is a international headline, given that a guy who died of a black guy who died of a drug overdose and was being arrested at the time that he was in a very, very fragile condition as a result of the drug overdose. That got screaming international headlines because the cop was white. Screaming international headlines. I mean, months of headlines and using it for propaganda purposes. Yet here we've got 45 people in one city that are shot. 45, between 5 and 8 die as a result of these things, and there's not only no headlines, it's not even reported outside of that local suburban media channel or newspaper. It's the city media doesn't cover it, the national media doesn't cover it. These all of these media outlets that are supposed to be, super focused on social justice and protecting minorities and this sort of thing, not interested. None of them are going anywhere near it. Now, I'll come back to that in a minute. But so 45 people are shot over that weekend. Now, then going to Baltimore, which is a city on the east coast of the United States, and there's 28 killing. Then you go for another city, in the south, and I'm at 3 cities and already, or 4 cities in the United States, and already on well over 100 shootings. I'm already like 106 shootings, I think it was, in the 4 cities. Now, this is all black on black violence, black shooting each other. Now, it could be, drug wars or gangland violence, or black people have this. Certainly, the ones I've come across, even ones that you think would be, I hired a black guy years ago. This is the first black guy I ever hired years ago, and he had 2 college degrees. I mean, they were affirmative action. The guy could barely read and write, but he and the company was pestering me to hire a black guy, so I did. And then they pestered me to get rid of him, for goodness sakes. But anyway, he was always getting into fights, and like in the weekend, he'd always come in with a lump on his face or a fat lip or something. I said, what's going on here, buddy? Why? If there's a one-off, sure, but it seems like every weekend you're getting, oh well, somebody disrespected me. Well, I mean, when you mean disrespect, what do you mean? When he walked past me, the way he looked at me, so I went up to him and I told him he better apologize for the way he looked, and he told me to get lost. And so I said, yeah, you want to go outside and let's sort this out, man. So sometimes the guy would say, yeah, okay, fine. Other times the guy wouldn't. And so they're standing in a queue maybe to go to a restaurant. So he decides he's going to have a punch up with someone there because of this disrespect. It's somebody, the way he might have looked at him. Oh, the way the guy brushed past my wife, I told him he better apologize to her. I was going to take him out back and give him a thrashing. And so he said, yeah. And this sort of thing. So these are people that seem to be hair trigger when it comes to assuming disrespect. And, so they might come back with a gun or a knife or something. But anyway, so we've got over 100 just in those 4 cities, over 100 shootings. Some actually are stabbings. So, but over 100, nearly all of them are shootings. But over 100 shootings in just 4 cities in the United States, and 20 people, 20 black people died as a result of these shootings, and more will probably die as a result of their injuries. Now, this is a big deal. 20 black people died. Over 80 were injured as a result of gunshot wounds. This is huge. This is huge. I mean, Black Lives Matter. Yeah, I mean, this is huge. And yet you can't find a word of it, not a word of it anywhere. In the media or international media, again, the media outlets that scream when they've got an opportunity to point out evil white racism, they want nothing here. So when black people kill each other, it doesn't matter. That would appear to be, I mean, if I've understood it correctly, but surely when anyone's shot or injured as a result of gunshot wounds, isn't that a matter for concern for anybody? I mean, somebody's died. Isn't this? I mean, like, hey, this is international news or national news, but no, it's not. And even talking about it or mentioning it means that you're a racist because you're pointing out black misbehavior, which means you're a Nazi and Hitler and da. So this is it. But I was surprised at the extent of it. So I went back because you have to go to the very local, even sub-local almost media outlets to find this. The national media or even the main news channel of Chicago, they don't really report unless it's a record amount of shootings. Maybe then they'll mention it, and it doesn't get much of a gig. They'll spend far more time on black lesbian rights or something that they will on these shootings. And so you have to dig around. So I went back over several weeks and found that really in the US, any given weekend, you'll be lucky to find any weekend in the US where there's less than 100 shootings of black shooting each other. And yet the media is censoring this and is an absolute lockdown on this info. And I was staggered to find that it was so much that every fucking weekend over 100 black people are having shootouts in the downtown area. And really, you only, I don't know how, I didn't look at every single city, but if you look at the main perpetrators, Chicago and Baltimore and so on, you look at those, that's where the main stuff is. Say in New York, you may get a bit more knifings and shootouts, but it's still happening there as well. But you put together the whole thing, it's easily more than 100. Now, if you look at the whole US, you'd probably be looking, I don't know, but if if I can get over 100 shootings every weekend in just 4 cities, I think you would easily get 200 plus nationally, and yet there's no mention. To me, this is a national emergency come catastrophe. This should be a headline news nationally, internationally. It should be something that all these so-called social justice groups scream about. The United Nations and so on and so forth should be dealing themselves into this game, you think, but no, nobody's talking about it. hundreds of people are getting shot every weekend. Black people are getting shot every weekend by other blacks. No one's talking about it. For goodness sakes, you've been a Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.